This is our journey up the gully towards the top of the amphitheatre. I left a little bit more earlier than those guys, so you can see them down below. So we've come up, and behind me, that's what the rest of the pass looks like.
Yeah, that's beautiful, dude.
This is a post-hike interview with Kai, Roelof, and Jared. So Kai, why didn't you end up coming on the Drakensberg trip?
So I had hockey trials that they were actually initially supposed to be a week before the Traverse started, and then one of the players got corona, so they were postponed a week, which happened to be during Traverse. So I decided only to do half.
And when were you expecting to join the Traverse?
About 6 days in, when the food restock went up.
How did you feel knowing that the plan to join the trip had fallen through?
I wasn't too stoked, eh? I was keen to go on the hike, but I mean, these things happen, so.
Well, we're very sorry that you didn't get to hike with us in the Drakensberg. Right, so Jared and Roelof, walk us through the first 4 days of the Traverse.
So on the first day, I started off with a very, very long drive, waking up at 4:30, up a very rocky incline to Sentinel Car Park. And from Sentinel Car Park, we hiked up. We didn't take the chain ladder route because the chains aren't too good. And we hiked up that pass there. Then we got on top of
The gully?
of the gully, and all the way to, we hiked up to Montesources, which was going to be our first of 7 peaks. We summited that. Then came back down to Together Falls, which I got the privilege of seeing. It was pretty cool. And that evening we hiked to Kaveri River, yes, that's it, Kaveri River, and we spent a very, very, very cold night at Kaveri River. It was,
When you say cold, how cold do you think it was?
so in the tent, it was negative 4 degrees Celsius. My water bottle froze and it was cold. It was very cold. My feet were frozen. I had all the layers on. It was quite an experience, I'm not going to lie.
And what was the river like the next morning? Do you remember?
It wasn't that bad that we had to like take the ice out and melt it. It was, I could see ice was starting to form around, but my hands, if you stuck them in for any longer, pretty sure you wouldn't have any hands left on.
Day 2, we started off with a very cold morning, obviously, like Jared said, but it wasn't very exciting. It was very beautiful with some nice views, but it was a very big push for us because we ended up doing about 22 kilometers a day from Kaveri, that's the one, river, all the way to just behind Rock Reefs Pass, which was quite nice. It was a big push for us, and I think it really tested some of us. But yeah, it was very exciting. It was a very grassy area next to the river, and there was like a marsh area full of wet grass. And even though it was flat, we couldn't sleep there because of the fact that in the morning, the grass would literally be frozen. And yeah, so we ended up sleeping about 10 or 15 meters away from the river on some higher grass, which helped a lot.
Day 3, Jared?
So we woke up that morning. I didn't have that too good of a sleep that night, I don't know why, but we woke up, saw some beautiful wild horses grazing on the grass on the opposite side of the valley, and I think the day 3 was probably the most beautiful leg of the trip. It was from Rockeries to Tiki Tiki Pass, and we managed to see the elephant and look into the valleys.
By elephant, you don't mean the animal, you mean...
No, sorry, a mountain called the Elephant. It was a spectacular mountain. This is when one of our teammates, well, his knee was acting up, and we had to make a decision from there.
And where did you end up camping that night?
we were camping by Tiki Tiki Pass, right?
Day 4, Milof?
So day 4 was quite interesting because of the fact that we woke up in the morning to some very loud and irritating wind, and unfortunately this caused us to literally just chill in our tents until about 10 o'clock because we physically couldn't get out because the wind was too much. I know 2 of the tents basically almost broke because of the strong winds, but one of the positive things about the wind was that we could actually take the time that morning to appreciate the view, because we went at just after 10, the wind calmed down a bit, and a few of us decided to take a walk up to the valley and just look at the view there. And that was probably my favorite part of the trip because it's just so beautiful from up there. Unfortunately, we left at about 10:30, 11 o'clock for that day's journey, heading down. So we went up to Organs. We summited Cleft Peak, which was quite beautiful, I think. It was a big push, but it was quite beautiful. Then we went down to the Organs Pipes, and we went down the pass there. The pass was quite interesting because it was a short pass, but right after that, not unfortunately, it was quite beautiful, but there was a path literally about the size of my forearm leading right next to a few hills and mountains, like on the side. So if you stepped one step to your right, you'd probably fall to your death basically. So that was really scary in my opinion, but it was really beautiful and if you consider the views and stuff. And we ended up doing about 14 Ks a day.
Yeah, 14
Ks, yeah, just quite decent. And we set up camp quite late in a very, very nice camping spot. And we ended up making a fire in the Lowerberg, which is really nice because it was like a nice vibe. We had some music playing, a nice fire, you know. And we only ended up getting to bed at like 9:30 that night. But yeah, it was a really good experience, I think.
So let's just clarify that fire was in a very, very sandy area with no danger.
There was no grass around at all.
There was rocks around
the fire. It was very small as well. Yeah.
So we'll just put a disclaimer in here that Drakensberg fires are not supposed to happen.
Yeah.
But we felt safe enough to make one there. Yeah. Do you want to walk us through day 5? Yeah.
I probably had the best sleep in my life. And basically we walked down Mike's Pass, which is quite an easy walk. It was flat on a Jeep track, very beautiful, valleys down below. Felt quite weird because we were merging back with civilization and we saw people for the first time. And we also saw trees, which was something you don't really see on top of the berg. So that was the first for us. And still now, I'm still feeling like I still need to adjust to civilization and stuff like that, because I think we just adjusted to the berg life, which changed a bit. It was quite cool. It's awesome just being in the mountains.
Thanks, guys. So if you had to pick out one thing that you most enjoyed about the trip, what would it be?
Mine was the feeling that you are tiny in the universe and even in this world, and just gives you a scale. The Drakensberg just gives you a scale to compare yourself with. This beautiful landscape and just how quiet and dangerous and beautiful it is all at the same time. And I really enjoyed that part of the trip.
So for me, I'd probably say that it was 2 things. Firstly, the fact that I really learned of my limit tour. I learned how to push myself and how far I could push myself. And then secondly, it would definitely be the views. Since it was my first time up on the top berg, it was really beautiful for me and a very awesome experience.
What did you find the most challenging?
I found the most challenging one was the wind. That wind on day 3 was terrible.
No, day 4.
It was day 4. Yeah, it was terrible. We were walking in it, and your nose was running, and it was cold, and your bag was going one way. You're trying to go up the mountain, but the wind's just pushing you in the face. And that wind was very, very nasty. But we managed to get through it, and it was just a small little setback.
Yeah, I would say, like Jared said, the conditions were pretty rough in terms of the wind and the cold, but also the sheer distance that we had to travel. I mean, I'm not used to traveling like 22, 23 kilometers in a day, if that makes sense. So yeah, that was quite tough for me.
And how did the isolation and the vastness of the space affect you?
So it definitely got us to think a bit about and learn about ourselves. Definitely helped us to bond as a group because there were no distractions and stuff like that. But yeah, mostly it helped us to be able to reflect on our lives and learn about ourselves.
Yeah, I find that it's like a desert up there. It's lonely. If you're not writing your copy, you'll go crazy. You'll see it. I think I started going crazy towards the end of day 4, but luckily we managed to get down. But yeah, it would have been, if we carried on, it would have been a big mental challenge for me. I find just being up there and just seeing the valleys. And,
So let's talk about that coming down. Why did you eventually come down?
So we came down because one of our teammates, he had a past injury that acted up. It was in his knee. And he was basically, I've got so much respect for him, he was basically pushing all his weights and everything on his limits, just the whole last 2 days. And yeah, that's why we came down, because he wasn't able to carry on and push through till day 6, where he could go down.
And how did you feel when you found out that we needed to come down?
I'm going to be honest, I was quite disappointed. I was looking forward to finishing this thing and getting that feeling of accomplishment. But to be honest, I also understand the situation. And like Jared said, I have a lot of respect for the guy that got injured, because he just kept pushing himself. He didn't just give up like most people do. And
I also got to say, I was quite sad in the aspect of us coming down, but I was nervous because I didn't know how we were going to get down the pass. I don't know how he was feeling. I was concerned, and it really tested us as a group, which was quite a cool test, I think.
How do you feel now that you look back at the trip? How do you look back on it?
This hiking trip was probably one of the best trips in my life. Even though it was quite a short one, I still think that we experienced so many things and just had such a great time up in the Berg. And I think I'm in love with the Berg right now. It's created there's a bond that's never going to be broken. It's always going to call me back, and I think that's awesome.
Sure. Yeah, it's like I said earlier, I really learned a lot about myself, what my limits are and stuff like that. So that's one of the things I'm going to remember about the Berg. And like I said, it was my first time up there. And it's just amazing. I was blown away by the views. And it's just like Jared also said, it's just, you feel so small when you look at those mountains. And if you compare yourself to them, you just feel so small.
And life on the summit for 4 days, what was that like?
Like I said before, it was more mental than physical. It's crazy up there. It's a completely different world. No trees, no people. We only saw people on day 4, I think, and it's crazy. It's crazy how isolated and you're basically by yourself. It's crazy.
So, in my opinion, the altitude really got to me on the summit. So on day 2, the morning of day 2, I woke up, started getting my stuff ready to leave. I started eating breakfast, and as I started eating breakfast, I started feeling dizzy, like I was going to pass out, and I started feeling nauseous. The night before, I had a really bad headache, so I just sat down for half an hour, and it went away eventually. But the altitude really got to me. I think that was one of the biggest challenges from being up top, and also, like Jared said, the isolation.
Well, guys, we may not have completed the whole Grand Traverse, but I think the traverse we did get was fun.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And I hope it was of great benefit to you.
It was
Very big learning.